some of the finches, they had a sharp pointed beak which helped them to crack the nuts and the seeds to feed on them. We know that Australia is one of the countries which have a large number of marsupial species. Nature helps in selecting those organisms which are capable or which are fit to survive in this planet. The fitness of an organism depends on the genes that they inherit from the parents. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to this session for class 12 biology. I'm Dr. Divya, biology faculty. So in this session of chapter 6, that is evolution, we shall learn about adaptive radiation and evolutionary biology. So what is adaptive radiation? So adaptive radiation is nothing but different types of organisms evolving in a particular geographical area and then distributing themselves to various habitats or various geographical areas. So that is what is called as adaptive radiation. So for adaptive radiation, we can take Darwin's finches as one of the best example, and also the Australian marsupials can also be considered as one of the best examples for adaptive radiation. So Darwin's finches. So Darwin, he is called as the father of biology. So Darwin had a great interest towards traveling, and he used to travel to different islands using his ship which is called as HMS Beagle. So during one of his voyages to the Galapagos Island, he noticed the finches, which belong to the same species, they had different types of beaks in that same island itself. So he had a question, why is it so? So that is when he got to know that the beaks of the finches or the shape of the beaks of the finches varied depending on what food is available in abundance in that particular island and depending on the feeding habit. Say for example, some of the finches, they had a sharp pointed beak which helped them to crack the nuts and the seeds to feed on them. Some of the finches had a hooked beak in order to catch on to the insects, hold them and prey on them. So that is how, depending on what food is abundant in different regions of that particular island, the beaks also tend to vary. And he noticed that these different species must have evolved from the original species from that particular island itself, and then those species might have, or evolved species might have, radiated or moved to different geographical areas in that particular island or different habitats in that particular island. So therefore, Darwin's evolution of finches is one of the best examples for adaptive radiation. So moving further, one more example for adaptive radiation is the Australian marsupials, and we call it as marsupial radiation. We know that Australia is one of the countries which have a large number of marsupial species, and different types of marsupial species originated in one particular region of Australia and they got evolved into different species and they distributed or moved to different geographical areas in Australia. So therefore, this is one of the best example. Say for example, we have the wombat, which is a marsupial species, the kangaroo, the marsupial rat, the banded anteater, the tiger cat, Tasmanian wolf. Tasmanian wolf is extinct today, it is not there. Then the sugar glider, then we have the marsupial mole, the koala, the bandicoot. All these are the animals or marsupials which are found only in Australia and they are not found any other region. But they originated in one particular region in Australia and they got distributed throughout Australia in different habitats or geographical areas. So therefore, this is also one of the best examples for adaptive radiation. So next, let's learn about biological evolution. Biological evolution, in this we will learn about evolution by natural selection. So natural selection is one of Darwin's theory, right? So in a true sense, natural selection would have started when cellular forms of life with difference in metabolic capability originated on Earth. And we have studied about the various hypotheses put by various scientists. Like some of the scientists believe that spores or cells came from different planets, it landed onto the Earth, and then the arisal of new species and all that started. So that is how they believed, right? So therefore, natural selection also might have started when cellular forms of life with differences in metabolic capability originated on the earth, and in there also it was selected by nature. The organism which needs to survive on the planet was also selected by nature itself. So talking about the theory of natural selection or the theory of evolution by Darwin. So the essence of Darwin theory about evolution is natural selection. The word itself says natural organisms are selected to thrive and to survive on this planet based on nature, that is based on natural selection. So the rate of appearance of new forms is linked to the life cycle or the lifespan of the species. So whenever we say nature selects those organisms which are capable of reproducing healthy individuals and which are capable of having a very good lifespan, they will tend to survive when compared to the other ones which do not have a good lifespan or a good reproducing capability. So therefore, nature helps in selecting those organisms which are capable or which are fit to survive in this planet. Some of the examples are, say, like microbes. Microbes are cosmopolitan. We find microbes in large numbers throughout the planet, right? So why microbes? Why did nature select microbes to thrive on this planet? It is because they have the ability, their lifespan is very short, but still they have their reproducing capability is very much. So one single microbe can multiply in minutes to produce thousands of new organisms, right? So then microbes, they divide fast and they have the ability to multiply and become millions of individuals within hours. And fish or fowl. So here when we take the example of fish or fowl, they have their lifespan is more when compared to the microbes, but their reproducing capability is less. But still nature has selected these fishes and fowl as the organisms to thrive on this planet because their lifespan is more when compared to the microbes. So it's like that. So the nature selects the organism based on their reproducing capability and also or based on their fertility and also based on their lifespan. So this is theory of natural selection which was put forth by Darwin. So next let's look into the theory of the survival of the fittest. So this also was proposed by Darwin himself, and the survival of the fittest and natural selection, they are like two faces of the same coin, because the ones who are fit to survive on the planet are only selected by nature and they stay on this planet for a longer duration. So nature selects for fitness. One must remember that the so-called fitness is based on the characteristics which the organism have inherited. So hence, they must have a generation or pedigree wherein their parents are carrying good quality of genes, so that they inherit the same quality of genes from their parents and they can get selected by the nature and considered to be fit to survive in the nature and also evolve to form new different organisms. And another way of saying this is, some organisms are better adapted to survive in an otherwise hostile environment. One thing is they should have good amount of genes from their parents, so that the nature selects those progenies to survive on this planet so that they can reproduce and produce healthier progenies. So therefore the fittest can survive and they are selected by the nature. Other thing is, those organisms, so when we say survival of the fittest, some of the organisms, they will be capable of adapting to any environmental conditions or any habitat. So those organisms are also selected by nature itself, and they have their adaptive ability is inherited from the parents again, and all these are genetic basis. So therefore, the fitness of an organism depends on the genes that they inherit from the parents. So fitness is always the end result of the ability to adapt and get selected by nature. So therefore, when we learn biological evolution, two theories we need to keep in mind. One is the theory of natural selection and the survival of the fittest. So nature, those organisms which are fit in the sense which are capable of reproducing and which are capable of having a good lifespan, they are selected by nature in order to produce their progenies and to give good amount of organisms which are fit to survive on the planet and which are fit to evolve into new species. So this is about biological evolution. So the two key concepts of Darwinian theory of evolution, that is the theory of natural selection and the theory of survival of the fittest, is branching descent, natural selection, and homology. So homology means common ancestry. That is, from where exactly did the organism evolve. So it is a common ancestry that we look into. So say for example, this is also a kind of convergent radiation or convergent evolution. So we learnt about adaptive radiation, wherein in Australia, the organisms which were living in Australia, especially the marsupial mammals which were living in Australia, they evolved and they moved to different geographical regions, right? So here, the same thing we can call it as convergent evolution. So see here, Australian marsupial, that is the marsupial mole, it evolved into the present day mole that is there. And the anteater numbat evolved into the anteater. The marsupial mouse, it evolved into the mouse. The spotted cuscus, it evolved into the lemur. So all these you get to find now, right? Some of them are extant over here. The flying phalanger evolved into the flying squirrel. The Tasmanian tiger cat evolved into the bobcat. The Tasmanian wolf, which is extinct now, has evolved into the wolf which we see today. And wolf is not just confined to Australia, we can find it in other regions also, right? So this is a picture that shows convergent evolution of Australian marsupials and the placental marsupials. So therefore, the placental mammals that we see today on the planet have all evolved from the Australian marsupials through adaptive radiation, and that we can call it as the convergent evolution. So this is just an example was there in the textbook that I have retained it here to show how the other placental mammals have evolved from the Australian marsupials. So next, talking about one of the theories of biological evolution apart from Darwinian's theory of biological evolution, which is called as Lamarck's theory. Lamarck's theory is nothing but the use and disuse theory. So use and disuse of organs is what is the concept of this particular theory, and this theory doesn't hold much importance like the Darwinian theory because nobody believes in this particular theory. So according to Lamarck, the use and new species of organisms evolved based on the use and disuse of a particular organ. Say for example here, the giraffes during the early times, they had a short neck just like deers with a short neck. But eventually what happened when the leaves or the bushes and all that got emptied from a particular habitat, they had to depend on the leaves or the greeneries that are present at the above level, that is on the trees. So therefore, in order to reach that, they started developing longer necks, and today the present day giraffe that is there today, they all have longer necks. So that is the use and disuse. So because of overuse of the necks to reach on to the leaves that are present on the trees, the giraffe's neck over a period of time, that is about many years, it started to become long, and the present day giraffe, there is the long necks that are there. So this is use and disuse theory. And also it is said that the snakes earlier is said to have legs, but these snakes, in order to escape the predators, they started to run very fast, and therefore during that, because of continuous use of their legs, they started losing their legs, and nowadays the snakes that we see around, they do not have legs, right? So it is all the theories that have been put forward regarding use and disuse of organs. But this theory is not considered much today because it doesn't hold enough evidence for that. So this is about Lamarck's theory of biological evolution. So one more scientist, his name is Thomas Malthus. He worked on population based on Darwin's theory of evolution, that is Darwin's theory of natural selection. And he said that natural selection is based on certain observations which are factual, because Darwin's theory always was based on some of the facts which he saw. So that is why it is always correct, is what Thomas Malthus also got to know during his course of work towards the theory of evolution. For example, natural resources are limited. Populations are stable in size except for seasonal fluctuation. Members of a population vary in characteristics, and even though they look superficially similar, most of the variations are inherited. So he said that when natural resources are limited, there also nature selects the ones who are fittest to feed on those or depend on those natural resources, and they only survive on this planet. And populations are stable in size except for seasonal fluctuation. And also he pointed that nature selects those individuals as capable of fit to stay on the planet, who are capable of adapting to natural fluctuations. And also he said that members of a population vary in characteristics. That is true, because no two organisms can have different genes, right? Wherein some of them may be dominant, some of them may be recessive, and both the recessive gene goes to the progeny, then they'll have recessive characters. If one dominant gene and one recessive gene goes into the progeny, they'll have the dominant characters, and always these characteristics or genes are inherited from the parents. So these genes also over a period of time tends to lead to evolution. So all these theories or work of Thomas Malthus also prove that Darwinian's theory of natural selection is true is true. So this was about the session wherein we learnt about the adaptive radiation, taking Darwin's finches as an example and also the Australian marsupials as an example. And also we got to know about different theories under biological evolution, that is Darwin's theory of natural selection and the survival of the fittest, and Lamarck's theory, that is use and disuse theory. So I hope you understood this session well. So we shall meet again in the coming session wherein we'll discuss about the mechanism of evolution, and also we'll learn about a very important principle which is called as Hardy-Weinberg's principle. So see you in the next session with these two topics. Thank you.